This is Vernal checking in. Is anyone there yet? Good morning, this is Vernal. Can anyone hear us? I can see someone in a purple shirt talking, but I can't hear anything.
Can you hear me?
I can, thanks. Can you hear me?
Oh, perfect. All right. So we are still setting up right now, okay?
Yes, and I'm just a facilitator. My attendee isn't here yet either. I was
Okay,
just checking.
perfect. All right, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. If you have any other questions, let me know.
I think I will. Good morning.
How are ya?
All right, how are you doing?
Good. Huh. I wonder if we can get a table from somewhere else
Yeah.
so that we don't have to pillage from our seating.
So what do I connect to? are you doing this morning?
I'm all right. How are you?
All right.
Good. Thank you so much for the bagels. Wow.
Oh, no problem.
Awesome. All right. So have you started the meeting?
I have started a meeting just now.
Just now. Okay, because it doesn't seem to want to have me join it. It seems like it wants me to start it.
Oh.
I'm going to click on it and see what it does.
Maybe we did it at the same time and I was maybe a second faster.
Huh. I don't know.
Oh, yes, all right.
Okay. So we're both in it. Great. All right.
Okay, Mindy, this is our presenter.
Oh, hello. How's it going?
Good.
Wonderful.
So, did I email, was it you that emailed my presentation too? Okay,
Yes.
so that was good, you
that
have
was
it?
correct.
Okay,
I have
good.
it. Yeah, and you can see. I'm just about to pull it up right here.
Okay, I hope the
So.
video works. I have a little video on
Oh, all right. Well, let's test that. That's good.
download it. It's not, you know what I mean? It's not
Right.
like a link or anything.
Okay. I'll admit I didn't try and play it. I didn't go through every slide. So okay, so that'll.
We'll figure it out.
Okay.
Actually, we need 2 more tables.
Yeah. Hi, Tay. Would you go talk to Brigham? Did you see him when you?
Gabby's asking for 1 more, but.
Yeah, I would prefer 2. If we can do it.
So I was gonna ask, these care coordinators, do they work mostly in like coordinating or navigating like the healthcare system, or is it behavioral health too, or both? All of it.
Everything that these families run into and encounter.
Yeah.
So a lot of behavioral health issues. That's always our top question is, where can I find help for this family? So we try and do a meeting around mental and behavioral health every summer. So this is it.
Okay, cool.
And, sometimes we'll take a more specific approach, or we'll look at a more, for instance, Primary Children's has come in and talked with us about what they have to offer. We've had Valley come in and talk about what they have to offer.
That's good.
Yeah, so we try and, it's not always just the whole topic. Suicide has been very much something that's been mentioned in recent meetings and come up. If there's a chance that you can talk about, options for families that aren't necessarily in that crisis mode quite yet, that would be really helpful too.
Okay.
So these the majority of our attendees are care coordinators in pediatric offices throughout northern Utah. Some are insurance care managers, so they actually work for insurance companies, and they're on the pediatric side of the insurance company.
And like, where geographically do they work?
Yeah, so interestingly enough, we'll have a Vernal site.
Oh, yeah.
That's interesting. Why is that up?
Wendy.
Oh, darn it. We told them we're not having anyone there today. I don't know why snow is up. I don't know what I'm seeing here. Anyway, we should have one person in Vernal.
Oh, yeah.
And we'll have, I think, 1 or 2 people in Orem.
Okay.
Occasionally we'll get farther in the farther reaches of the state, but so far we haven't quite gotten our reach down there yet. We probably don't have too many in northern Utah attending right now, but we're anticipating going all the way up to Logan.
Okay.
So, but yeah, clearly Salt Lake is the most dense place that we have, and then we do have quite a number of, so Utah Valley Pediatrics has a number of clinics and practices in the, Utah County area. So we have quite a few from that area, and it's kind of stretch throughout the valley and up into Bountiful, Centerville, Farmington, that sort of thing. So yeah, and our goal is to blanket the state because we have this technology that allows people to go to a local site and see and interact. We're not quite there yet, but we're getting there.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
All right, let's see what we've got here. I don't know why I'm seeing that. We want just PowerPoint.
I have a little remote too, if you don't happen to have one.
I
just always have it
assume that they do, but I don't see one.
Well, whatever works. Mine's right here, so.
Okay, well, if you want to try and have it connect, that would be just great. Okay, so where is your, is it here? Yeah. Okay. So it looks like, so we just need to figure out volume.
Yeah.
Up. All right, well, so it definitely looks like it's going to play. We just need to figure out volume.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I might have to get our technical support in here.
I know, that's always the tricky part.
That's fine. He's just right out there.
Okay.
So I'll go grab him.
And
Just
there's
make sure I've
the thing
got.
for the USB.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
And one more here? Yeah? Are you getting another one? Okay. Thank you.
Good morning. And the video seems to be playing fine, but we're not hearing any audio, so.
Okay.
It's right there.
Okay. All right, how are you doing? Yeah, that's good. So I'm not sharing this just yet.
Okay.
I'm just testing it. Okay. So when you share the computer to the call, it'll have it play the sound out to the TV.
Okay. I think we could share that now.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that should be fine.
Okay. So it should work now.
Okay, great. Do we have a remote for the
For the
computer if we want to do slide advancing?
That's a good question.
She brought her own. I didn't know if that's acceptable.
That
or-
should work.
That should work. Okay,
Yeah.
great.
If you plug that in, that should work fine.
Very good. The last question I have, I don't know if you can answer it, is we are only supposed to be connected to Vernal and Orem today.
And the rest of them?
There shouldn't be. We canceled those yesterday.
Okay.
And I've never done Snow. Well, where is Snow? I mean,
I'm not sure.
yeah, I'm not either, because these are, I'm unclear.
Ephraim?
Yeah,
Okay.
we've never had any reason to reserve Ephraim. So
Okay.
I'm confused by what I'm seeing here.
Okay, I'll have them clear off the other sites. And
Okay.
So just Orem and
Orem
Vernal?
and Vernal.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, I'll get that
Thank you,
done for
Brick. Okay.
Just share the screen with me so I can see the,
Sure.
Mindy, is there still, like a go-to-meeting option as well?
Yes.
yeah.
Because yesterday we were meeting, with Kelsey in, Landing,
Uh-huh.
and she said she had been out for several days, and she said, I totally missed sending back an RSVP. I said, I think it's probably too late, but I think you can do.
She contacted me.
Yeah.
I sent her the go-to-meeting stuff specifically, directly as a response to her, and then I sent it out very specifically to the whole list.
Well, then I say no more.
She, in theory, Kelsey knows how to connect via GoToMeeting. I was sad because I would have loved to have her,
She was funny because she had been at like a country music festival in Grand Junction for several days, and she looked beat to crap. She rolled her ankle. I mean, she looked like she'd been through the ringer. And she said, I totally missed sending back an RSVP on that. So, okay, cool.
well, I think it's a learning experience that we hope people will actually learn from, because we don't want to have to send out these. This is exactly the scenario I don't want. Like, on Tuesday morning, I've just canceled something. Half an hour later, I get an email, I'll be there. I try and uncancel it. I don't want to do all of that. So we're saying by the end of the day Monday, we need your RSVP, and otherwise, sorry. So.
Yeah, no, this works fine.
But she can totally always connect via GoToMeeting.
Learn and burn.
Right.
Well, are you all refreshed from a weekend of sights?
You know, we had a really great time, but I have to tell you, I'm wiped out from all the driving. It's really a pain.
I don't know how to do this.
Every day we get a little bit
I mean, this is the computer. I am not familiar with. I don't think I have a port. Andrea, I don't think I have a place I can put this. It's kind of an unusual computer, and all of
The ports
the
are taken.
USBs are already connected, and I assure you, if I undo one thing, it'll snap.
Oh, what about this one?
Maybe. Is that a little hub? Should we try it?
Yeah,
Okay, let's try it.
They are the nicest people. My goodness sakes.
Well,
Making
Promising.
that noise. Okay.
I don't know if you want to test it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Would have to go into PowerPoint.
Yeah.
And this isn't mine, but that's,
Yours is in there. Yours is embedded in there, so that we don't have to switch between PowerPoints. That's why I like getting them the night
It's
before.
working.
Working.
Great. Okay, fabulous.
give her some money for something, some things that you
He was like, I said to him, how long have you lived in Orange?
So when I leave here, I'll go to
He
bed.
said, he started the story of how long he lived there with, well, I
Last time we went to the chocolate bank, and I had never been there. So I'm kind of very fascinated. This one, I'm not 100% sure what it is. I've never heard of it. But I think they pack, emergency kits to school, so that the high-risk schools have. So that's how you know.
nice. Oh my gosh, I wanted to either move in or bring him home with me.
We did,
wonder though what's going to happen. I said, well, I said, go to the school, they're going to start trigger and all this. I can learn how to make latte. You know how hard.
You don't even need to buy a latte machine, they got it for you.
Well,
But the drive home was a marathon.
You know what, though, we got stuck for about a half an hour last night. So that was an hour into it. And then we rode. Almost 45 feet, right, 45 on that road.
That's the highway that's gravelly?
Yeah, you're on Highway 6.
Like when you go past, like,
You're
turn
past.
on for East Carbon and
Yeah.
Three Rivers.
Yeah.
That.
Just a mess, twice. I could never really figure out what they were doing either, because like I saw hardly, I kept seeing heavy machines moving around, but not a single thing.
Yeah, I asked her, I was like, what do you think they're doing? I can't figure this out. They're not putting out pipes, they're not making the roads bigger. I mean, are they just flat out grading it and repaving it?
Yeah, you know.
Anyway, Kelsey was one.
So what time did you leave yesterday?
We left 1:30ish.
Much earlier than I would have thought.
1:30.
You know what, I think we could have done a lot more while she was touched out.
She was.
And there's only so much you can do, I think. She just almost, at one point, I just went, like, leave it so much, I don't know if I can do this for like a year.
Yeah, she did, she was doing okay, I think, and then we brought up billing, or she brought up billing. So
Sad about not being here, thinking about.
And then at that point, she glazed over, and I was like, I mean, I don't like thinking about billing, people who work at the anyway, or want to be okay.
Are we requiring a gas station?
We're not. We'll do the best we can, as far as, you know, once we get credentials, then I'll run them by here. We're not going hardcore after the, you know, like, I don't think it'll be a solution. They're going to help work. But if there's any balance over the top, then it's like when it gets to balance. Why not?
Well, they won't fall off. They're super sticky. Oh, yeah?
My days,
Hi, how are you? I don't believe I did.
But they posted that they want the parents, like the people's input.
Okay.
There's like a meeting
Okay.
tomorrow, and I remember they put it in the paper, but I cannot find it. When I find it, I will let you know.
Oh, that would be great.
Could
Yeah,
let them know.
yeah. That's great. That's perfect. Okay, let me know when you find it.
Yes, do you?
Yeah, so it's the blue zone when you do Wi-Fi.
Okay,
The-
this one.
Okay. You don't think you can get on somebody else's Wi-Fi? So
I have to find it.
you have to find it on that. What's the Facebook page?
The primary children.
And
So I'm going, yes, it was, days ago, so I'm just trying to go, but I can't. It was, and then there was
Okay, no, you're good. Remind me how to do this. Is it on right now?
No, he had some other stuff.
No.
He just didn't have they put him there.
I don't think
for this one.
However, she didn't go to the
I know, but still, there's a lot of driving.
I think it's the main one.
yes,
Okay.
that's the only one.
I think Chelsea's gonna do a great job. Sorry. She's invested in her community.
Well, that's right.
A nurse. I hope so. Like, that's what we try to really try. Like, as Heather was mentioning, things that is email her.
Okay. July 12th.
So that, like, yeah, she had it right in her
So this is just a meeting to share.
Actually, it worked out really well, wasn't it? It really planned that way, it just worked that way. Yeah.
We want to celebrate families, executive perspective.
So then we
So
decided
on July 12th, the chance to do that, from 7 to 8. Yeah, okay, I can say it. I'll do it.
Thank you.
I think she knows we're excited. There's our email address. Here's our phone number.
Really? Okay. Do you think you can try and capture who they are?
Yeah.
Yeah. Write it down somewhere.
One, you can write the name in there.
So that's what we want to try and
Yeah,
capture.
so when you
And where they're
it might
from.
be only on the phone.
Yeah.
If I can send a message.
Okay.
It was interesting.
All right, well, it looks like it's time to do it.
Is she American or is she?
Good morning, everyone. I think we'll go ahead and we'll get started. It's 8:30.
Yes.
I don't know what that means. Was that you?
Okay. Because I unmuted, and then that happened.
Okay, so if you stay muted,
I don't know.
your audio should get picked up by the room and go into GoToMeeting through this machine.
Okay.
So I think that should work.
And we will see if
We'll find out.
And then if
Okay.
not, you're in the matrix.
I know, right? It is a little matrix-esque. All right, well, let's try this again. So, welcome everyone. My name is Mindy Tueller, and I manage the Utah Children's Care Coordination Network and the Medical Home Portal. We have a couple of other distant sites connected with us today. So I think I see Kristen. I see like Kristen's arm. Is that right? Hello. Hi, Kristen. Welcome. So Kristen's in Vernal. And then in theory, we'll have one or two people in our Orem location. as well. So we hope to see them shortly.
They say they cannot hear us.
So Kristen, you can hear.
Yes, I can hear you.
You're hearing fine. Okay, so it's our GoToMeeting that's not hearing. And Carl says we can't hear either.
So if I go to computer audio, we have the echo.
Oh, it says I'm muted. That's probably, okay, let's try that now. GoToMeeting, folks, can you hear? Great.
Okay.
Okay,
Yes.
so it was this computer that was muted.
Perfect.
Okay. Whew. All right. Well, while we had those audio issues, we had a few more people walk in, so that's great. That's terrific. We'll go ahead and move along so that we can get our introductions going. Now I got to figure out how to. There we go. So yeah, we'll start out with introductions, and so as I mentioned, I'm Mindy Tueller, and then Gabby, do you want to ask the folks who are on GoToMeeting to introduce themselves?
Yeah, Janice, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself? Oh, so Walt Torres says, hello, this is Walt from Integrated Services Program. Carl says, Carl, University of Utah, Gila Valley Pediatrics Nurse Care Manager. Hi, Carl. Melinda Tibbles, can you introduce me? I will need to stay muted. Melinda from UBP Timpanogos, Care Coordinator. Katie McClurk. Katie from Intermountain Clearance Clinic Nurse Care Manager. Patricia, can you introduce yourself, please? We also have Nikki Brock on there. Nikki is an RN, Care Coordinator at DCB Pediatrics. Hi, Nikki. Patricia, Kelsey Homedo. Kelsey is an RN from San Juan Public Health Department, a care coordinator. And that's pretty much it, except Patricia. And Patricia, she's unmuted, but she doesn't talk.
Okay, well, she might, yeah. We know that stuff can get a little tricky sometimes, particularly if it's your first time doing it. So, well, welcome everyone on GoToMeeting. We're glad you could join us. That's terrific. All right, so why don't we go ahead and go through our room here.
Tell me if they don't work.
Okay.
But I've never had them not work, but I'm just saying.
Hey, guys in Vernal?
No, I don't think it's them.
Oh, you don't think it's them?
I think it's somebody on GoToMeeting, don't you?
No.
No, I think we hear it through this.
Okay, sorry.
So I'm not sure. Yeah, we're still figuring out all the audio stuff. So basically, best to either mute until you want to talk, or I guess just try and talk only when it's to the whole group. So, okay.
My name is Gary Baragoshi, and I am a QI specialist at UPIC and also the AV person for today, obviously. Patricia typed, this is Patricia from Help Me Grow Utah Parent Support Specialist.
Okay.
Yes.
Great.
I'm Bridget Hollinger, I'm care guide at Holiday Pediatrics.
Welcome.
I'm Teresa McBride, founder of James Mansion Centers for Recovery, Adolescent Day Treatment, and IOP.
I'm Tomoko Tsukamoto. I have a new role now with the Huntsman Intermountain Cancer Care Program, and I am a AY Adolescent Young Adult Patient Navigator. But I was at primary children's complex care for inpatient side, and my last job changed. Now they are hiring a nurse who goes to homes.
Okay.
So hopefully that person will start coming soon.
That would be great. Okay. Thank you.
I'm Andrea Hood. I'll introduce myself later because I'll be presenting.
Chuck Norland, Director of the Medical Report.
I'm Kim Perry. I'm a care coordinator
a new care coordinator at Southwest Children's Clinic.
I'm Liliana, and I'm at Southwest Children's Clinic also.
Great.
And Tony Estrada with Integrated Services Program.
Carrie Martinez with Integrated Services Program.
Marilyn Howe with Integrated Services Program, the Utah Department of Health.
Come on, Eric.
And last and certainly least, Eric Christensen with Integrated Services Program, Utah Department of Health.
I'm Kathy Crane. I'm a care coordinator at Wasatch Pediatrics South Point.
I'm Carly Foss. I'm a care guide at Southridge Pediatrics.
Melissa Higley. I'm a care manager at Altitude Pediatrics. I'm Jan Boker. I'm a care manager at Memorial Pediatrics.
I'm Pat Rowe. I'm pediatric nurse care manager with Select Health. I'm Anna Dees. I am with Allies with Families. I'm a family resource facilitator specializing in dual diagnosis.
And I'm Gina Polameni, Utah Family Voices, Utah Parent Center.
And Tay Haynes with the Medical Home Portal Resources.
Dan Mead with Motif, Women's Specialist and Social Capital.
Are they working? Okay.
I'm Christina, care coordinator for University Pediatrics.
Luana, I'm the care coordinator for University Health Plans.
Tricia Young, care coordinator at Willow Creek.
Great. Okay. And Vernal, do you guys mind introducing yourselves?
I'm Kristen. I am the care coordinator for the CSHCN program over in the health department.
And I'm Ginny Murphy, and I work with Dr. Greg Staker in Roosevelt.
Wonderful. Great. We're so glad to have you.
So we have still one person on the GoToMeeting. It's called Caller 01.
Caller 01.
Caller 01, please introduce yourself.
Maybe they could type in the chat box if that's easier.
I think they're on the phone only.
Okay. Oh, shoot. All right. Well,
Caller
01, if you have an opportunity to let us know who you are, even after the fact, through an email, to me that would be great. So
you just joined 2 minutes ago.
Okay. So I think we have a number of new faces here, or newer faces, and I think I'll just take a minute to try and explain a little bit about kind of who we are and how we found ourselves here at the USU Salt Lake site and connected to a couple of other sites and what that sort of means. So Dr. Norland has been interested in children with special health care needs and quality improvement in pediatric practices around children with special health care needs and their outcomes for a long, long time. And so under his auspices, the Medical Home Portal was developed and has been around for a long time and keeps growing and expanding. And so part of why we meet together is to make you aware of that resource and to also try and kind of crowdsource that resource because of the opportunity we have to get so many people together who have so many experiences with services and resources in Utah and even beyond. And so we really try and take advantage of having everyone get together at these meetings and be able to brainstorm and crowdsource to help one another, and that benefits the Medical Home Portal as well. But the Utah Children's Care Coordination Network actually got started a number of years ago. I think we began in January 2015. And it happened after a grant that Dr. Norland had just come to an end that was around medical home and getting care coordinators into pediatric practices. And those care coordinators were funded through this grant. And one of the things that Dr. Norland and his folks found is that a really terrific byproduct of the care coordinators and the grant were these meetings that care coordinators would come together and they would be able to network and to find support from one another and to really benefit from the experiences one had so they didn't need to reinvent the wheel all the time. So we took that idea and we expanded on it, and that's how we are continuing to have these monthly meetings. And our goal is really to have anyone who works with kids, particularly kids with special health care needs in Utah, to benefit from that. And we were fortunate enough to be approached from USU's Center for Persons with Disabilities, who has a mission that encompasses trying to do education and outreach around, support for children with special health care needs. They let us know that USU has this terrific network of classrooms that actually lets you feel like you're together in the same room, or pretty close to that. So we get to see one another, we can hear one another, we can truly have that interaction. This is being recorded right now so that we can see the folks in Vernal. They'll be on the recording if they have anything to add, and we'll be able to post that for an archive later on. And this is going to give us the opportunity to bring people into these meetings that we've never been able to reach effectively before. We have our GoToMeeting option, which is great, and clearly people are taking advantage of that, and we think that's terrific. It's a little different, though, to be kind of on the end of the phone or the end of the computer where you're not seeing any faces. They're hearing us and seeing the slides, and that's all. So we love that we have this opportunity to meet in these rooms. This is relatively new for us. We're still kind of feeling our way through, particularly with the audio. But we hope that if one of these sites makes sense to you, and I'm speaking maybe more particularly to those on the GoToMeeting end, but really if one of these sites makes more sense for any of you all, there are really sites throughout the entire state. I think there are 32 or 33 in all, and as long as we have a little advance notice, we're able to utilize those. So, yeah.
I would just throw out that the transition from that original medical home grant to that really supported UCCCN for the first 3 years was a grant through the Department of Health, and then Eric Christensen was very instrumental in getting ongoing funding through the Utah Department of Health to support the ongoing activities of UCCCN.
That's right, yeah, and we're really pleased about that. And one of the other things that I wanted to do by taking this moment is to help folks understand who some of the people are who are attending these and even supporting us monetarily. And so, Eric, do you mind taking just a second to kind of try and explain what the Integrated Services Program is? Because I think that could be really valuable.
Sure. The Integrated Services Program is started out as part of the Bureau of Children's Special Health Care Needs, which is under the Division of Family Health and Preparedness at the Utah Department of Health. We came into existence July 1st of 15. Wow. So 3 years ago when we stopped providing direct clinical care to children with special health care needs along the Wasatch Front and in rural areas. And that care transitioned at that time over to University of Utah, and the University Developmental Assessment Center came into existence at that same time. We felt there was a need for some kind of support of the medical home concept for some practices that may not have the capacity to provide in-depth care coordination. As we all know, there's no money in care coordination, and a lot of offices are running on a shoestring, and so we felt that it might be a good opportunity to try to support some of those practices around the state. So some of our staff who had worked in a professional role, I've got a speech pathologist, an early interventionist, clinical staff, social worker, who registered nurse who worked in clinics for years. We felt that was some pretty good experience to kind of move over into the care coordination piece. And so it kind of came into existence the same time we had a grant that had come into the state. It was through HRSA. It's called a D70 grant, and to this day I have no idea what D70 even means. But it was a D70 grant through HRSA, and that helped to fund some care coordination, some capacity building. Because those monies came in, we were able to start the Children's Care Coordination Network as part of that, and are excited to keep that continuing forward. But anyway, we're just a small group that has been providing this care coordination to kids around the state. And as we were unable to renegotiate a contract with University Developmental Assessment Center this time last year, we will in the next couple of months begin providing direct clinical services again in a very small fashion along the Wasatch Front, and then 22 additional times to some remote areas, rural areas in the state, and it's mostly eastern Utah in some of our local health districts there. And that's the abbreviated version, and if you want more details, let me know.
Great. And then, Gina, would you mind talking just a little bit about Utah Family Voices, because you guys have been so pivotal also in the Utah Children's Care Coordination Network, and people should know who you guys are and how you can help them.
So I actually started along the lines with Chuck years ago. Family Voices is funded also by the Maternal and Child Health Bureau, and so Eric has to deal with me on an ongoing basis, and we are the parent partner piece of that in helping with resources, family-to-family peer supports, and helping families navigate through all of the mazes to get their kids with special health care needs the resources needed, and most of those are the community-based resources. So we partner very well with integrated services in that care coordination piece. We actually, because of our funding being from Maternal and Child Health Bureau, we're mandated to provide those type of services across the spectrum, and medical home is one of the key pieces that we've always been involved in. And so we are under the umbrella of the Utah Parent Center, and so every state has at least one parent center and at least one Family Voices, or what's referred to as a family-to-family health information center, that works with all of the partners and providers that help families, children, and youth with special health care needs.
So, yeah, we always want to make sure that folks know that Utah Family Voices and Integrated Services Program are resources that are available for you, and they're free of charge. So these guys know what they're doing. So the Medical Home Portal is a great online resource that we hope will be beneficial to you and the families that you serve. If you need something more, a voice on the other end of the phone, that's what these folks can do. And they do have Spanish-speaking personnel as well. So great. Okay, and then the last thing I just wanted to mention is that because we are utilizing these USU sites, we do need to report back on our numbers. So it's really helpful to us if you make sure that you sign in if you're here in person, that if you're at one of our other distance sites, we identify who you are, and that if you're on GoToMeeting, that we also know who you are and have a way to follow up with you. So that's really helpful if we can gather that information every time. So, all right, thank you, and let's see if we can't get moving here now. Okay, so for those of you who haven't been in this location before, here in Salt Lake, the bathrooms are a little hard to find and not terribly close. So you go down this hallway to the south, and you kind of have to wind around just a tiny bit, but if you look for the sign, it's near, I think, a break room. Does that sound right? Okay. And we're very informal around here, so if you need to get up and get something else to eat or use the bathroom, please feel free to do so. And then if you need Wi-Fi, if you go to look for the available wireless networks, it's the Blue Zone network. I don't think you can miss it. It kind of gets right up there in your face, and you can just get onto guest Wi-Fi that way. All right, so announcements. I just want to remind folks that at the end of every meeting, we send out a Resources of the Month email that sort of summarizes what we talked about in the meeting, and it includes all of the service providers and other local resources that we identify in our brainstorming session, as well as a quick summary of what the presenter has to say. And we put that out on our UCCCN webpage as a PDF. And I just want to remind folks that you can always get back to those, because we know that those are valuable to folks, and sometimes it's hard to remember what was said before. So those are now being put out online after every meeting. And again, you'll get an email with that information, and hopefully that'll have a link in it that you can find to get you to the website. So, and then I have one other announcement that's not on my slides because Tomoko just brought it up to me this morning. No, that's so great. It's very timely. So we talked in a prior meeting about a clinic that Primary Children's offers to help families with tube feeding.
Yes.
Right. And so, in fact, they are going to have what they call a parent forum on July 12th. And they are asking that families come and provide input on what they need out of a clinic and a program. And so I'll just read this. This is a Facebook post that I think just came out the other day. Primary Children's Hospital is starting a new feeding and swallowing program later this year. We want to talk with patient families to get feedback, insights, and perspectives to help us build and design this important new program. We hope you can join us. So it's at Primary Children's in Salt Lake on Thursday, July 12th from 7 to 8 p.m. So we'll put that in the resources of the month as well, and then we'll try and make that more widely known. We can even repost that on our Facebook page, so.
Question, Tomoko, would it be open for clinic nurses, or is this strictly a parent thing?
It says parent, but I hope they would take, so I am taking today with the main person, and then I will let Mindy know by this afternoon.
That'd be great.
And then so she could include, because I want to go.
Well, I just think it's important to know what parents are being taught.
Yes.
You know, I mean, in my role, I never get to see them. I only talk to them on the phone. So if I can support what they're being taught, that would be helpful, I think.
Actually, I think this is not the teaching.
This is more.
So some people think we already have the feeding and, clinic or a place. We have a temporary place by ED if they need tube replacement or something. But they are because they found that so many people would come to ED. So to avoid the ED visit, they are trying to open like 24/7 clinic for the patients and family with G-tube, GJ, and NG issues. So, and then they want to know the voice of people, what they really need.
Great.
So they can plan better, so that they can start later this year.
Great. Okay. So I will follow up with you, and we'll get as much information as we can get around that clinic out in the email. So great. All right. Okay. 7 minutes to 9. We don't want to. That's the other thing I should let you know. At 10 o'clock, like 9:59 and 59 seconds, our recording shuts off. Our connection to our other site closes. So I need to be more mindful this time. Last time it didn't go so well. So I'll be watching the clock a little bit more carefully from now on. All right, so this is our opportunity to, as I mentioned, kind of brainstorm, come together, help one another if we have cases that we're struggling with. We also really like it when we share new resources or share wins or updates on previous cases. We love hearing about things like motivational interviewing wins. That's been something we've talked about a lot in the past, is using motivational interviewing in our interactions with families, and also quality improvement efforts. We love hearing about how those are going. So this is your time, and I include everyone who's attending by GoToMeeting. If it's easier for you to type in the chat box, we can read that out loud. You guys in Vernal, we'd love to have your input as well. And we always like to look at the medical home portal while we're doing this to see if we can find resources there, or if we can realize that there are some missing, and then we can add those. So I'll open it up to you guys and see if there's anyone who'd like to start. Did I see a hand? Hi, Marilyn, go ahead.
I have two things. I have a mom who has a 7-month-old baby that's going in for ASD and VSD heart surgery. And she has been calling all over the place, trying to get information. She says, I'm a planner. I've got to know what happens when the baby comes home. And she says, all they'll tell me is that you'll be given instructions at the hospital during the surgery, after the surgery when you're released, but I've got to know what I need to have, because once I get home, I can't get it. And Amazon's 2 days away. And how's my baby going to be? And if I go out somewhere, will I bring the germs in? Is that going to be a problem for my baby? And she has been, she's talked to Help Me Grow, she's talked to me, and we've both suggested family voices, but she's talked to parents in the past about things, and they're not meeting her needs. And my thinking is, if she wants to talk to a nurse who's been there, done that, can explain it to her, but she's not getting any satisfaction from the surgeons. In fact, I don't think she's even met the surgeon, and the surgery's next week, July 5th or 6th or something.
Has she not spoken with the nurses that work for the cardiologists?
Yeah, that's where it starts. That's where you come into problems getting to the person when you call in office. Yeah. So you guys know people, And I wanted to get another opinion to suggest to her. I said, would you be open to talking to a parent who's had a child with that kind of surgery? She says, yeah, I'd be open to it. But sometimes when she has talked to parents, like she's got on Facebook of parents of heart defects, but they were so much more involved, heart patients, transplant patients, things that my understanding with ASD and VSD, it's pretty routine surgery that the surgeons do is that, and that they recover. After being with neonatal follow-up program, there's a lot of babies that came in that had that, and they were just fine. So, where do you suggest, what are the suggestions from?
She hasn't spoken with her pediatrician either. Are they rural? It sounds like.
No, they live in Orem. And she goes to a cardiologist in Provo, and then the surgeon will be at Primary Children's. And she hasn't had any satisfaction with knowing what happens when I go home. And she has a 3-year-old who likes to touch the baby. What is she going to do to, just the little mom things? And she's an overthinker probably, but who knows? She's really concerned about, you got a little tiny baby that's going to have heart surgery. What do I have to have at home? What kind of support do I need?
Well, having been a PICU nurse and took care of those babies, if you want to give her my number, I don't care. I'm happy to talk to her with a disclaimer that, either I'm not her insurance or I may be. Or whatever, but things are still fairly routine, and I'm happy to go over those things with her if she would like a nurse's perspective.
Okay, would you give me the number to give to her?
801-442-9345. And obviously, if there are any other nurses that have that background, but I've taken care of those kids post-op.
Okay.
Is there any other underlying comorbidity or anything?
No, that's the only thing.
Okay.
And that's where she feels like on that Facebook page, the families that are connected there have all of the other issues.
And are they closing both or just the ASD?
No, she said both. Okay. And I know your name.
No, that's all right.
Pat. Pat, yes, Pat.
I have had luck also going directly to the office and talking to the nurses. And sometimes, I know with primary systems, you have to leave a message for an MA, and then somebody gets back to you just by going through scheduling. And that's been very helpful because they really do know the, discharge ideas and what's going to happen, equipment needed, et cetera. So
are you saying call the office directly or walk into the office?
Call the office and say, I want to talk to a nurse, and chances are you'll get on an MA line, or if you're living right, you'll get a nurse.
And you'll get the MA.
I'm not saying that against MAs, don't get me wrong. It's that it's another transfer.
Well, see, and that's the problem. We all know that for ourselves, trying to get to talk to somebody when you call a doctor's office.
But they do call back. And so that's been helpful.
Okay. If that is not satisfactory, I know the discharge case manager, but usually these are very safe procedure, and usually they go home fine.
Well, we know that, obviously.
Right?
Yeah.
So, but I can double check after if
Lauren or
Lauren.
Shauna would be really great resources.
So should I connect that first, or should I wait?
She's happy to call me.
Let's start with this, and then your contact information I could probably get through.
Yeah. And you know what, too, because I know Lauren and Shauna, I can hook her up with them.
Oh, okay.
They're care managers that help with discharges from Primary Children's. And both of them have worked at PICU and are very familiar with those kind of repairs as well.
Oh, that would be awesome. I think that's what she's seeking. She doesn't want to wait till the surgery to know what care she needs to do for her baby. She says, I'm a planner, I gotta know. And so,
Nice, though.
are you planning on calling her today? Probably tomorrow.
Okay. We can talk after.
Okay, that would be great. Okay, my other issue is more of a mental health issue. A young man that's almost 18 has ODD, bipolar, and autism, and the parent is currently in family getting some family counseling. She's only had the boy in her home for 6 months after his father died, and there's lots of issues. But her counselor has suggested that to make him more responsible, and because he is so defiant on anything that she would suggest, that he should be allowed to live on his own at age 18, and that she needs to take him off of her insurance, and then as he turns 18, he's an adult, he's got to get his own insurance, and he is going to be responsible for his own bills. One of her concerns is what residential resources are available for an 18-year-old with mental illness who only sees a counselor and refuses medication, and he's going to be living on his own, and intellectually he's okay, but with autism and executive functioning and a lack of counseling throughout his life, and his dad wasn't very proactive there. Are there residential facilities for people with mental illness? When you look at autism, there's a few, plus the fact he doesn't qualify for Medicaid because he has an inheritance. He's got money that he knows is his money, and he's got this concept in his head that I don't want to spend my money, like to go shopping. He's supposed to go get his own food. He'll get a tomato, and he may then eat his mom's food. So, are there any resources more for mental illness than for autism? Then you've got the issue who's going to, he can't get on Medicaid to even get treatment.
There is.
No, he's not.
What's the home place? Well, you're the expert.
Well, I don't work in that specific. I work in suicide prevention, but there are a couple people in my office that might be a good resource to you that that I could connect you to. So my email address is up at the end of my presentation, but the only thing that comes to mind immediately would be like the clubhouses and supported employment for him. I don't know of any residential treatment personally, but I could connect you to people who might know more about that.
Okay, so I'll get your email, and if I email you, you'll get me.
I'll forward it on to the right.
When does he turn 18?
August.
He could still potentially get into something like youth care. That's a possibility. Because they do work with the mental illness. Once he turns 18, it's much more difficult. But I would definitely. But she's going to pull his insurance once he turns 18. Is that?
That's what the counselor is suggesting. But I don't think she's going to, because he needs mental health care, and if he went to the ER, there wouldn't be any money for him, and he's not. I mean, it's hard enough for us to get health care through the other resources.
I would definitely check with youth care. Sounds like that would probably be
Salt Lake County.
No, youth care is in Draper. It's a residential for teens.
But
mental health.
But he'll be 18.
But he isn't yet. So even if he were to get, even just some type of stabilization and some kind of assistance before he turns 18, that's still something. They may not even be able to keep him longer than that anyway. When's his birthday? End of August or?
I don't remember.
Okay. He could still get, even if he got 2 months of treatment.
But doesn't it take that long to get in?
No. It's usually about 2 to 3 weeks. Sometimes I am happy to assist with that and call them and talk with them. I've got some connections there. So if you would like me to do that, I'm happy to to that.
I'm not sure at this point. There's some other issues going on.
I don't know if Mom would put him in a residence, so that's the other.
And
Even though
whether,
that might be the best thing for him.
yeah, and he
but I don't know if
wouldn't
she would.
agree, he himself, to agree to anything.
But if he's a minor, she doesn't get to.
I don't know, it's kind of a really complicated.
Are they tied in with Independent Living Center or with Voc Rehab at all?
They've applied for Voc Rehab, and it's been almost 2 months, and Mom hasn't heard. She thought she was gonna hear something.
Independent Living Center might be a good kind of stopgap. They're easier to get into.
I don't know whether Job Corps would be I know that's an excellent resource
It is
for kids that
residential.
age to be able to get a trade and have their living taken care of. It's really great supervision, but I don't know about the mental health if it's too, if he's
He's pretty severely
Okay.
affected with his ODD and his, and having bipolar.
Marilyn, Walt is saying that Valley Behavioral Health might have some options. So he says housing options, a number of units throughout the Salt Lake Valley that offer housing options for those with mental illness.
Okay, I'll check out these.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
Another long shot might be Chrysalis.
Yeah, I did give her that information to check
Okay.
out. I'm just wondering, payment-wise,
Would they accept private pay if he's got the funds to be able to do that? I don't know, just
yeah,
throwing that out, but.
that's one that I did give her to check out. Okay, thank you.
That's a tough one. Sorry, Beth, I've got one from the, I need to get to.
One last comment
Okay.
on this story. I'm wondering if the mom needs some further counseling, and I was just thinking about Utah Family Voices, because the funds that he has should probably be shifted into a trust or whatever.
Yeah.
So that it doesn't prevent him from getting resources that he needs. It sounds like she needs more of a big picture view, not just about housing, not just about mental health, but kind of a big picture view. So I was just thinking about Utah Family.
And I guess my only thing would be to please tell her not to drop him off of her insurance if possible. Trying to get insurance on your own, especially if you are not eligible for Medicaid right now, would be the worst thing for this young man. So,
And we know
I'm disappointed that a counselor's even, I realize the independence part of it, but health insurance is one of those things that we don't wanna.
Yeah, terrible advice.
That's terrible.
She's still trying to decide whether she's going to listen to that advice. And she's just really not thinking that's a good one.
Yes.
Because he could be on her insurance until he's 26.
Absolutely.
But I also, I am concerned that he doesn't have Medicaid, because I think previously he did, so I don't know, something might be.
When he lived with his dad in Idaho, he had Medicaid. But then trying to get Medicaid in Utah, now that he's received an inheritance, he has $40,000 in the bank. And so Medicaid.
So, the other option would be, Anna would not be available because he's not qualified for DSPD, but one of her colleagues, another family resource facilitator, could take up, and help and go into the home and be very intensive with mom to help her even.
So who is this?
So Allies with Families.
Okay.
You would ask for Sheila Brown. She is our kind of catch-all family resource facilitator, and she can go in and do a wraparound facilitation or case management or peer support. In the wraparound facilitation, it sounds like they would be a great candidate for the wraparound facilitation, and his voice and his choices and his goals would be written, and we would look for natural supports and formal supports to kind of facilitate those goals.
That sounds really good.
And
Well,
can
they
they
call
also
allies
help
and
with financial stuff as far as what to do with those funds, to put them in a trust?
We can
We
help.
can talk to Gina about that.
Yeah, they're down the hall from us now.
And she's also looked into guardianship, but she is uncomfortable with doing that, and he doesn't trust her enough with his money.
So there's a program that somebody just told me about called
Tracy was telling me, supportive decision-making. That's kind of an alternative to those higher functioning kids that are looking for guardianship, or their families that are looking for guardianship. Because like if you go to buy a house, you don't just go buy a house because you've never bought a house. So you start asking questions, and so it's kind of that similar process for these lower functioning kids.
Can we find that online?
Just Google it.
Okay.
Yeah, there's all sorts of
The
information.
DD Council has some great information that I have some handouts, and actually I'll send them over to you guys so you have that.
Send it to Mindy, so.
Oh, you guys are wonderful.
It takes a village.
It does.
It really does.
Fantastic. Okay, great. All right, and we do have another question from someone on GoToMeeting. So this is Allison Lewis. She says, I have a 6-year-old who has many diagnoses, including autism, ADHD, weight problems, etc., and mom has had problems with him constantly. We recently got all the paperwork filled out for the neurobehavior home program, but obviously they have a lengthy wait list. This week, mom called in saying the boy had escaped the house without mom knowing, and the police got involved, which then got DCFS involved. Mom is worried they will take him away, and we're trying to get him in quicker with the home program to no avail. Any suggestions to speed up that process in a dire situation, or any other services that may help?
So once they're in DCFS and they're in human services, even though for most families, DCFS is a really scary thought in situations, but their first choice is not going to be to take him away.
Right.
They are going to look at the resources and see what they may potentially need to do from DCFS to help make the situation better, as well as work around with the other programs within human services. So there's no magic bullet for, unfortunately, to get into the home program. I mean, it's unfortunately, everybody that's waiting has a critical need. So I would encourage them to talk to DCFS as a partner and somebody that can help and kind of switch kind of that
paradigm
part of it, because they may have just the right resources to help until they can get into the home program.
And she's exactly right. I have a client who has DCFS social worker, and it needed, talk about a village. It needs a complete village to work with this family, and the DCFS social worker has been phenomenal. She has discovered things that, even though this patient's been coming to the clinic for a while, we didn't know. And so that has been extremely valuable. I think it's really, they've worked so hard to keep that child and to put the family together, or to help the family
to stay together.
So,
and DCFS has family resource facilitators and peer supports in that capacity as well. And I can tell you, I have a family with an 8-year-old, almost identical situation, that mom went to DCFS and tried to relinquish custody, and they have nowhere for it. So they're not going to take them away. There's nowhere to put it.
All right, Allison, I hope you were able to hear all that. So it sounds like rather than, she says, yay, sounds good. Rather than being alarmed at the DCFS and trying to get as far away from them as possible, try and switch that frame of thinking and try and embrace it and recognize them as a real resource, a real support. So, okay, great. Well, guys, this was amazing. Terrific. What time do we have? 9:14. All right, we need to switch gears, and Andrea is going to come up and talk to us, and we're really pleased about that. So let me get back to the PowerPoint.
Pass them down. All right, well, I will jump in and introduce myself. I'm actually filling in for a colleague who hasn't come up, but I talk about suicide prevention all the time, so it worked out. My role at the Division of Substance Use and Mental Health is a zero suicide project coordinator, and you guys sounds like you're very familiar with quality improvement in healthcare settings, and that's what I do when it comes to specifically suicide prevention, quality improvement in healthcare settings. So I provide technical assistance for agencies that want to improve the suicide care that they provide. So that's everything from like training, screening, treatments that are specific to suicide, follow-up, and then like monitoring to improve over time. So it's a pretty cool program, and if you have, interest or questions about that, then I hope you'll email me, because it's an exciting exciting opportunity to make some really profound changes in how we manage suicide risk in care settings. So yeah, I'll just dive right in. It sounds like you guys have a pretty good baseline of knowledge, which is good because we don't have very much time. You can go a lot more in depth on this information, so this is going to be a really fast fly through. So we're going to go, you guys already know suicide is clearly a problem in the state of Utah, and we are fifth in the nation for our suicide rate. And so there's a lot of things going into that, and two of the big ones that, because sometimes we get culturally shamed or whatever for like, oh, Utah, it's your culture's fault. Well, not really. Like if you look at these states around us, Nevada and Colorado are right next to us, also in the top 10 with their suicide rates, and they have very different cultures from Utah, so that's kind of an oversimplification. And so we want to keep in mind things like firearm ownership rates and the rurality, just our lack of access to care in some cases if we have more rural areas in the state. So those are some things that could be contributing to our rates, and the high elevation is another thing. But just kind of a view of suicide over the lifespan. So this is our 10 to 17, and this is primarily who you guys are working with, and they have a much higher rate of suicide attempts maybe, but suicide deaths are actually lower in this age group than in other ages. So this is really a whole lifespan issue, and males are more affected by suicide, that's the green, versus females is the purple. The only reason that's really important for us to know is that maybe our males are less likely to access care, and we can help with that. Also, males are more likely to use a firearm in a suicide attempt, and those are very lethal, and so we can help with reducing access to firearms during a crisis, specifically. And these are our use rates. You can just kind of see the purple is the nation, Utah's the green, and we are definitely seeing an increase. It's definitely an issue here, and there's a lot of contributors to that, likely. It's very complex, but one factor could be increases in social isolation that's kind of come with our increased use of technology and smartphones and social media. So that's one factor. Again, a very complex problem, multi-determined, but just one theory for you to think about. So I do want to give you guys a couple of resources if you're working with any families who have LGBTQ kids who are at risk of suicide. The Family Acceptance Project is a resource that provides parents with education and tools on how to show accepting behavior towards their child, regardless of whatever religious or cultural values the parents have. It gives practical tips on how do I still show my child that I love them in meaningful ways to prevent them from having these really terrible outcomes. And so they have resources specific to LDS families, and then just general resources, and they have videos and brochures and stuff like that on their website. And then the Trevor Project Lifeline gives specifically like a crisis service for LGBTQ individuals. So if we could play this video, that's really short, just to give us an idea of, or an understanding of suicide, and I'll just play it and let it speak for itself.
One of the things that I think about all the time, I want to share this just because I think it's so vital to change the I think back to 9/11. We as a country watched, absolute horror unfold on our TV sets, but what we also witnessed was such a profound lesson if we would have learned it. And that's when the towers started to fall and burn, and we watched the people from the top start to jump. By definition, they died by suicide, and none of us sat on our couch in judgment and said, oh, how dare you, how selfish of you, you coward. And if we think about why, it's because they didn't jump because they wanted to die, any more than I really wanted to die when I had my suicide attempt. I just wanted to get away from the pain and the hurt that I didn't know how to fix. And that's where they were at. Our thinking isn't rational in those moments. That's why we need to be able to reach out to somebody and say, hey, this is where my brain is at. This is what it's telling me. Please help me not to do this, and let me have that conversation with you in a way that you don't judge me or shame me, because that's how I feel. And I wish, that's my goal. I wish we could shift that conversation to where this was just an okay thing that we could say. Hey, right now, today, man, I don't think I can go on. I need help, and I need you just to love me. You don't have to fix it either, but just maybe be here with me as I try to struggle my way through it too.
So that's a local suicide prevention advocate that we work with, Taryn Aiken, and I think it just gives a good, quick context of what it's like to have thoughts of suicide, and really gets us in that empathetic mindset that is going to be most helpful when we're working with people who are experiencing those thoughts. So in general, it's having thoughts of suicide doesn't mean that that person wants to die, and that's good news because often we see that most people who have thoughts of suicide go through periods of really intense uncertainty, right? Where they feel really ambivalent about wanting to die, and part of them really does want to live, is connected to people or to some reason for living. And so we can tap into that, and that's really our goal when we're doing suicide prevention, is to help them strengthen those reasons for living. And I'm going to just cover this really quickly. These are kind of our big protective factors when, to prevent suicide. And so these are things that you can be working with a family just in an ongoing way to kind of bolster these protective factors. So obviously their access to quality health care, reduced access to firearms and medications that could be lethal, education, employment, connectedness, a sense of purpose or meaning in life, and then their individual problem-solving and emotion regulation abilities. And so that bottom is kind of like these societal factors going up to the individual factors. And we can be viewing them as a whole person and building up these protective factors as we are supporting them. So suicide risk, that was our protective factors, and we have the risk factors, and they kind of, are hopefully balancing each other out. And that's just kind of, I want to make sure we cover both of them. So health, I'm sure you guys know many of the health factors. What are some of the things that health-wise could predispose a person or put them at risk for suicide? Absolutely. It's a huge one. What else? Throw out a few more.
Depression.
Mental health conditions, specifically mood disorders and personality disorders. Bullying. What other health factors? Oh, you can do any risk factor. That's okay.
Say just like financial crises or major life changes like that.
Yeah, that put a lot of stress or make you feel like a burden to other people.
Chronic illness.
Yeah, and chronic illness, part of that reason is, the chronic pain, hopelessness, or feeling like a burden. So those are some of the underlying issues that...
Carl said homelessness too, and Alice and financial issues.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so there...
My son-in-law is a police officer, and he has been involved in 2 suicide by cops. And that seems to me, maybe just because I have a son-in-law and I'm a little bit more into those terms when I hear them in the stories. And what he explained is that one of the things that he's learned just through others' experiences in his own is that even the breakup, a 17-year-old young man who breaks up with his 15-year-old girlfriend. They're so young, they're so immature, and so lack life experiences that they think they've painted themselves into the corner and can't get out. They can't do it themselves, so they're going to ask someone else to help them.
Yeah, what a terrible position to be in. For the police officer and that person at risk. So we kind of think of suicide risk as like a cup, maybe. Could be like a visualization where you could be like these risk factors are like drops going into the cup over a lifetime, these traumatic events, these health conditions, these environmental factors. And then that precipitating event or that loss of a girlfriend is the thing that kind of overflows the cup, right? So it wasn't completely caused by that lack of, that loss, right? But those risk factors, and then that was the thing that kind of like filled the cup over the edge, right? So that's one visualization, one way to think of it. I guess a few other factors could be in health, maybe a traumatic brain injury or an addiction. An environment could be access to means or like norms around seeking help, or it could be suicide contagion, stuff in the media. Life experiences, trauma is a huge one, abuse, loss, those types of things are really, really big. So when it comes to warning signs, those are signs that the suicide risk is kind of bubbling up and the cups might be about to spill over. So what would be some of those things that we see? I'm sure you guys know some of these, so you can just jot them out.
Giving away possessions.
Definitely. What else?
They find a sense of peace, which my neighbor did before he was
a change of
successful.
mood, that's right, a sense of calm or euphoria after a really rough patch, definitely.
And isolating themselves.
Isolating themselves.
I have a friend
just talking about it. Just, I don't want to be here anymore.
I have a friend that moved, kind of spur of the moment, broke his lease so that he could get rid of all of his belongings and move into a new apartment without really anybody noticing.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So he moved into an empty apartment.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, so these
Kind of getting rid
unexplained
of belongings, but very weird, out of character.
Right,
Big
that
thing.
was his way of tying up loose ends and isolating at the
Yeah,
same time.
simultaneously, yep.
Yeah, giving away personal items, Walt,
Mhm.
and Alice's is withdrawal from friends and family,
Yeah.
isolation.
Yeah, definitely. And it can also be like saying goodbye to friends and family. Like maybe they call you out of nowhere, which doesn't seem like a withdrawal from friends and family. Maybe they're saying their goodbyes, and saying thank you, or I'm sorry, or I love you, those types of things. So these warning signs, if you just see one of them, can be hard to catch, right? And so that's why it's important to ask a question, to say, that seems a little odd. You know, can you tell me where that statement is coming from, or where that life decision is coming from? And or talk to other people who know them and say, I've noticed this change. You know, so it's really like putting together these pieces of a puzzle when we see a little red flag, and getting that like compassionate curiosity about people, because often we will only just see that one or two little signs, and so it does really help if we're willing to ask those questions and get more information. Sorry, this is hard to see. It doesn't show up like this on my computer. So said out loud warning signs could be things where they're expressing they feel like a burden to other people. So you would be better off without me, or I just bring everyone down, or I'm only making bad choices. I can't do anything right. Those types of statements. Or I wish I could go to sleep and never wake up. I can't take it anymore. Things that are expressing like being exhausted with life, and we all have those feelings of being exhausted with life, but when we hear someone say that, we could just take it that step further and ask them if they're thinking about suicide, because we never know until we ask, right? When it comes to things we could observe, some additional ones could be sleeping too little or too much, increasing use of prescription drugs, alcohol, or other drugs, seeking methods of suicide, or behaving recklessly, making decisions that are out of character or could lead to harm. So those are some of the things to look for. And we just ask directly. For kids, go ahead.
Can I make a note on that last one?
Yeah.
Observed also could be, we're talking about increasing alcohol or drug use if they've been long-term using and then they withdraw and don't get the support that they need to, deal with why they were using it in the first place.
Okay.
Then they could be at risk for exposing, peeling down that onion layer, and then all of a sudden they're having to deal with it.
Yeah.
And
their
so
coping mechanism is gone, and
their coping, and so even though that sounds a little reverse from what you have,
that's true.
It definitely was true in my son's friend's case.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. And there really are like an infinite number of warning signs, right? Because humans are just so different from each other. And so it's just when we feel that gut feeling that something's wrong, then we just ask some questions, right? And we don't have to go straight to suicide. We can just start by like, what did you mean by that? Or how are things going in your life? Some of these like open-ended questions. But eventually we should get to that point where we ask directly about if that person is thinking about suicide. And so one good way to ask the question is by saying sometimes people in your situation have thoughts of suicide. And the reason that that's good is because it shows I'm not going to judge you if you're having these thoughts. And you're not alone if you're having these thoughts. It's understandable. It might not, it might make me worried about you, but maybe it's understandable. And so you're more likely to get an honest answer that way. And so it could be like sometimes people with chronic pain just feel exhausted by that experience, and it's really, really hard, and it even leads a lot of people to thoughts of suicide. And are you having those thoughts about suicide, right? So that's a direct way, but it also shows that it's, understandable in their circumstance. So we're not going to do any practice because we don't have time. We're just going to keep moving through, but I do encourage you to seek out other opportunities to practice if you're not comfortable with this. We offer a lot of training opportunities, and Assist is a really good one. We have one coming up in August in Ogden, so you can email me if you want information and more opportunity to get comfortable with this skill, because it does take practice to really feel comfortable. So if we do hear a yes answer, it's really natural that our heart is going to be pounding and we're feeling nervous, especially if it's a personal relationship, but even if it's someone that we're working with, that's a normal response. So it can be helpful to know, like, what do I say back? And so these are just some options. I'm really glad that you told me that. I know this is hard to talk about, but I think I might be able to help. So let's work on this together. Just something like that. Just thank you for being honest, because really acknowledging how vulnerable they are and disclosing that to you is important. Because if we skip straight to if you thought about how you would do it, it doesn't show that humanness of that I care about you and that this is a big deal for you to talk to me about this. And that goes right along with the same listening topic, that it's a really natural reaction for us to want to get into our clinical mode and come up with a 10-step plan to save their life. And that's not actually what we want to do. We want to slow way down and take a breath and give them some time to talk about why they're feeling this way. And that's really going to be the most helpful thing for them. So just kind of take that time to step back a little bit. Another good reason to do this is it gives you time to gather clues about their supports, their coping, their suicide attempts, their past treatment, their suicide planning. The more of these open-ended questions you ask, the more you can kind of get an idea of these risk and protective factors and get an idea of what's really going on. Because thoughts of suicide range on a huge scale of just sometimes I wish I didn't have to wake up in the morning. Maybe I'd rather, keep sleeping forever. And that's the beginning, right? Versus yes, I have a plan, I've attempted before, and I'm going to go attempt this afternoon, which is very, very high risk. And so there's a big spectrum, and we want to get some more information. Can you tell me the story of how you got to this point? Or can you tell me about the day you felt most suicidal recently? And what was that day like? What happened? What did you do to get through it? And that can just be another way to get more information if someone's, not really disclosing a lot and you want to get more information about what's going on. Okay, so we're going to...
Sorry, me.
There. So there are some tools that can help you with assessment, like this Columbia Suicide Severity Rating Scale, but I'm not really going to go into those today because we don't have time. You can look into them on your own if you are looking for a standardized tool.
Andrea?
Yeah.
Patricia, she's asking about your email. She can't find it, and I think she's really interested.
I'll get it. That's why I'm joining.
Oh.
Okay. So this is just a really basic triage guide, and this is meant for you to use specifically if you're not a social worker or a trained, mental health clinician, then this is just a really basic triage of, in general, the Suicide Prevention Lifeline is available to help you make those decisions about how serious the risk is. They're available 24/7. Trained counselors at the University of Utah Neuropsychiatric Institute is who your call will be routed to. And so that's your best and most available risk assessment tool. And then you don't have to make a decision about, does this person need to go to the ER? Or can we just call, a mental health clinician and make an appointment for 3 to 5 days away? What's really going to be safe and acceptable? And I would highly recommend using the Lifeline for that.
That's a question that one of my clinicians had in regards to if you had someone that you wanted to send, the legalities about the HIPAA and providing information to someone that's not in your clinic, like a mental health provider. The HIPAA or the legality of giving PHI information out. Do you know in regards to are we able to? Do we need to sign a release form?
We have a legal and ethical responsibility to disclose suicide risk once we're aware of it. Obviously, we're going to be selective about who we disclose to, and
Is it only on suicide, or what about just counseling, mental health,
counseling and mental health, you
behavior?
definitely need signed, consent to share that information, or release of information.
With kids, is it the guardian, the parent, the only one that could sign for that?
Yeah, I believe so. So, and with the kid, whether they, give consent or not, obviously you can disclose to the parent and to a healthcare professional, right? Whether it be the Lifeline or a mental health clinician, or even, primary care physician. So the answer is yes, you can disclose, and you only need a release of information if self-harm and suicide are not involved, then you would need that release of information. And if anyone else has anything to say on that, please feel free to chime in. But
in general, HIPAA excludes the need for care. So it's for billing and for care, you can disclose. But it's always wise to get disclosure or consent, because you might injure the relationship with the patient. And then there's an exception for sexuality, pregnancy, and drug abuse, then those require specific consent. And I think for communicating around suicidality, that would totally be not an issue. But getting consent then sets the family and the patient up to get the care.
that's true. Because if we're like coercing care the whole way, they're not going to be bought in, and it's not going to be a positive experience. And so we want a collaborative rather than a coercive care, which you guys, experience daily, I'm sure.
And I think one of my physicians was saying that every time they come and they bring the child in, they're talking about the same thing, and they ask, have you gone to see a counselor? Have you started? No, not yet. And it's every single visit. It's like, why not? Why haven't you done it yet?
Well, and that's we have to work with the family on educating, on removing those barriers, but at some point, if there's suicide risk involved especially, that's worth a disclosure to Child Protective Services, because that child needs mental health care, and that's health neglect if they're not addressing that. So that's just a little thing. We have to take it seriously, right? Because it is very serious.
Well, it would never hurt. You could always just not identify the kid. If you don't use any identification, you always make a phone call or talk to somebody. And say,
you can.
This is the situation.
You can staff this with the Suicide Prevention Lifeline. Even if you're not sure if suicide is at risk, or if, they're always available to you as a professional as well as available to individuals at risk. So, good resource. This is just it's along that same lines, actually, what we were just talking about, that when we're working with a patient at risk of suicide, their goal is to end their suffering, and by whatever means necessary, including maybe suicide. And our goal is to keep the person alive and to calm our own fears about their safety, and those goals are at odds, right? And so we just have to be careful about how we pursue our own goals so that we don't damage that relationship, and so that they do have buy-in to care. And so a good way to do that would be, to ask the person what they want, and usually it's, to feel better, right? And so, and then to say, well, that's what I want for you too. I want you to feel better. And so why don't we together call the Suicide Prevention Lifeline and come up with a plan to help you feel better? Or why don't we together work on a safety plan? And then we can, and that will give you specific strategies in the moment to feel better, rather than saying, in order to keep you alive, let's come up with a safety plan. That's not a very good introduction, and it doesn't show that we care about what they care about, right? And yet, how natural is that to us, when we're in that panic mode? So just something to keep in mind when we're doing safety planning. So safety planning is particularly useful and I'll go and explain the details of what it is and how to do it, but first I wanted to share with you the purpose of it. And one of the main uses and goals is to help that person manage their own thoughts of suicide and manage their own distress between episodes of care. So often we give referrals, but we don't have any control of whether they follow up on those referrals and actually attend the appointment. And sometimes those referrals are, too far in the distance. They may be days or weeks out, right? Especially for meeting with a psychiatrist and getting medication management, those can be months out. And so we need strategies to help that person in the meantime, and safety planning is exactly that. And so we can come up with a safety plan with the person, or we can help them implement a safety plan that another provider has helped them come up with. Like the Suicide Prevention Lifeline does these. And we can, they can help establish a safety plan, and then if we have an ongoing relationship with that patient, we can help them actually implement it and modify it over time. So hopefully that gives a good understanding of what it is. So previously, we used to do contracts for safety, which is promise me you won't kill yourself this weekend, or promise me you won't, you're laughing, promise me you won't kill yourself until you give treatment a try, at least, something like that. We're just kind of like bargaining with them and buying time. And I even was instructed to do that by my boss, what was it, 8 years ago, 9 years ago. So this is not that far in our past, but we do want to recognize that safety planning is a more effective alternative. And the reason why is because it gives the patient ideas of what to do when they're in crisis, what will help, rather than just what not to do, right? And they have found that a safety plan compared to a contract for safety reduced suicide attempts by 76% at a 6-month follow-up. So this is not just like a nice idea or another like checklist. This is actually a life-saving intervention that you can do with anyone in crisis. And so I highly recommend using it that way, right? And seeing the potential that it has. So I've already covered that. So this is kind of what we include in a safety plan, and you guys, we've already passed out the Stanley Brown safety plan, which is one template. You don't have to write it down on that piece of paper for it to be, you know, a safety plan that's like to fidelity. You can do it in an app. You can do it on a note card. It's actually helpful if it's portable. So the person, or you could take a picture of it once you fill it out, whatever you need to do so that it's a portable and a useful thing for the patient. So first you would include 3 warning signs that a crisis may be developing. And this is actually really helpful because this is, well, when do I use my safety plan? And, you know, it's an awareness of before they get all the way to the crisis point where they're like going to the medicine cabinet and emptying all the pill bottles. Before they get to that, what signs can they notice? Because often these crises escalate so quickly that we have to be very aware of what those early warning signs are. So it could be getting in a fight with a family member, or it could be, you know, getting criticism from my boss at work, or texting, you know, staying up late at night, not being able to sleep. That could be a warning sign. Or having thoughts like I'm just sick of this, I can't take it, or I screw up everything I do, thoughts like that. Or it could be behaviors like pacing, or like having an urge to drink or something. So those are some examples of what types of warning signs we look for. And then what they would do is once they identify those warning signs, then they would first try these internal coping strategies. So these strategies are things that they can do anywhere by themselves without relying on anyone else to do it for them or to support them yet. So first they're going to try to manage the problem on their own. And so strategies could be going on a walk, deep breathing, listening to uplifting music, or, you know, petting a support animal or whatever. But it's really helpful if there's things they can do anywhere. So if they have, like, you know, I'm going to go on a 2-hour drive, or I'm going to take a hot shower, you can't do those in every setting. So try to make them, as many of these coping skills as possible, translate to different settings. And make sure if they say things, just the little quality things in this are actually really important. If they say, like, I'm going to listen to music, and you find out that it's, like, really scary, harmful music about suicide, then that's, yeah, maybe advise against putting that on the safety plan and be specific about what music they're going to listen to. And then next, if those coping strategies don't work, then they would go to the next step of using people in social settings that provide distraction. Using's a bad word for that, but you know what I mean. So they would maybe call up a friend or go spend time with a friend, and they wouldn't necessarily talk about their thoughts of suicide. They would just try to get distracted, listen to someone else's problems, or have fun. And if they don't have friends that they can call for this, that's okay. We want them to at least do social settings that provide distraction, and we can work on the friends piece later, but at least, like, I'm going to go be around people in a public place that's distracting and uplifting to me, like a park. And then if that doesn't work, you see how there's, like, so many barriers before they get to, like, 911 and crisis services, because we want to empower them to manage these thoughts on their own. Then the 3 people they can ask for help. And that could be family members or friends, or peer support. And then next, they would go to 3 to 4 professionals or agencies. So that's where we put, like, the Lifeline, the emergency room, and their therapist, and 911. And we can put them in order, you know, therapist first, and et cetera. And then, last but not least, the reasons for living is very, very important. Having them talk and tell stories or tell a memory about their reasons for living is actually something that can really shift the mood and help them to get like in a more regulated mood state. And sometimes that's the hardest part, is that they're just so distressed, right, that it's hard to be like, well, I don't know if you're okay. I don't know, like, if I can leave because you're upset, you're distressed. And this Reasons for Living piece is really helpful with that. So getting them to talk about what has given their life meaning in the past, something that they're looking forward to, someone that they care about, even a pet, person, whoever, and getting them to elaborate on that can help get their mood back to a good place. Also, it's good for them to be able to reflect on, right, when they use their safety plan, what are my reasons for living? For them to see that on there can be helpful in a crisis. If they're having issues coming up with reasons for living, here's one potential strategy you could try, because sometimes people with chronic pain or with really, terminal or serious illnesses or with serious losses are like, well, I don't have anything. Everything's been taken from me. There's no other reason for living left. And this can be a really challenging part. And so one potential way to handle that is you could ask a question like, okay, well, tell me, I hear what you're saying, that you've had a lot of losses and that that's really serious for you. Just humor me for a moment and imagine that I had a magic wand and I could take away, your biggest problem right now or your biggest health condition right now. And what would a life worth living look like? What would you do? Would it be relationships that made a life worth living? Would it be a job? Would it be a purpose, like volunteering or service to others? What would it be that was your life worth living? And get them to talk about that, and then for a few minutes, and then you can have a conversation about, well, what out of that, do you have the ability to have right now in your real life? Alongside the pain. I can't take the pain away, but what could you have from a life worth living, even with your pain, or even with, having a short life? And just exploring that with them a little bit and using some of that motivational interviewing to kind of build up on their answer. So that's one possible way, but there's no perfect solution. Everybody's going to be different. And then we go into strategies to make the environment safe. And so specifically, we want to focus on firearms and medications because those are things that are easiest to remove access to during a crisis, and especially firearms, are the most lethal method of suicide. So we want to be particularly aware of those. And a lot of times we hear this, well, won't they just substitute another method? If they're serious about dying, won't they just do something else? And first of all, that's kind of a misunderstanding, because most people aren't serious about dying. Most people are ambivalent. Most people have reasons for living. Almost everybody, right? Probably. I mean, if they're still here today, if they haven't died yet, there's a reason. So that's a misunderstanding. But second of all, many people don't substitute another method. They're just not comfortable. Self-harm is a really scary thing that takes a lot of courage, and using another method could be even scarier for the person. So something to keep in mind. Other people may delay their attempt, or other people, it may prevent them from making the attempt. And a little brief story on that was a youth here in Utah who had been struggling for some time and had, one of those tipping events that caused him to start looking for his father's gun in the home. And so he was searching for it, he couldn't find the gun, and then he got a text from his friend, and together they went to the mall, and that provided enough time for him to calm down, to think about more of those reasons for living. And when he came back to the house, he didn't want to die anymore. And it was like that 2 hours bought enough time that saved his life. And so we also know that 90% of those who attempt suicide and survive don't go on to die by suicide later. So if we are able to reduce the lethality of their attempt or prevent it, then we are likely saving their life in the long run, not just in the short term. So there's a lot of hope in that. Also, another thing to consider with reducing access to means is that many people who attempt suicide don't spend a ton of time planning before they take the action. There's an element of impulsivity, and it varies a lot by the person, right? I'm not trying to make any huge generalizations, but they did interview hundreds of people who had survived a suicide attempt in the hospital and said, how much time passed between you deciding that you were going to end your life and actually acting on that decision? And about half the people said 10 minutes or less. So that's a very short window between decision to action. And what's available in their home at that time could be the difference between life and death. So we have to be creative about our strategies. Some people aren't willing to remove the firearm from their home, and we have to kind of find a way to work with them. Like, can we put a cable lock on it? Can we have your neighbor hold on to it for a little while? That's the best case scenario, is getting it out of the house, right? Or can we store the ammunition in a locked safe? Or, just kind of like problem solving with them. And remember that we can't totally control the outcome, right? And so we want to work with them on putting a delay in place, but we don't want to make this a huge power struggle about, well, if you're not going to remove your firearm from the home, then I'm calling 911, because that's not really going to be productive. We could maybe say, if you're not willing to work with me, then, I feel uncomfortable, we can call the Suicide Prevention Lifeline to figure out what to do, but just try not to make it like a threat, or because they could just lie to you, they could find some other way. And so this is really about building the buy-in with them about why they need to reduce the access to lethal means. It's not about just trying to steamroll them in this conversation. So it's a little bit tricky in that sense. And what do we do if they have medications they need to continue taking? Well, there's a few options. Obviously, we can put them in a safe. We could have a family member help administer the medications and have control over them for a short term. We could also call up their prescriber and ask them to prescribe about a week's worth at a time, rather than, nobody needs 90 OxyContins. How often does that happen, right? People just walk out with this big crate of narcotics, and that is very, very scary. So working with the prescriber could be another alternative too. And maybe even having the naloxone in the house. You guys know what naloxone is, right? Raise your hand if you don't. I can explain it. I'm like, I don't. Okay, so naloxone is a medication that can reverse an opioid overdose. And so the family members could have it on hand if that person has to continue taking those narcotics. But is it risk for suicide? It's one option.
If the families need a free resource for the naloxone, going through UCCCN, Bridges program for the families, they give out a naloxone kit for every family that comes to the support group.
So you have to come to the support group.
You do have to, the families show up to the support group.
Families.
Yeah, it's a support group for families to support their addicted loved ones, and so they have a naloxone kit that they encourage everybody to take.
Okay.
Pharmacists also have them on
I
hand.
was going to ask that, how does one go about getting said kit?
I think they cost like $60 or something.
So they were giving them out for free at one of the health policy projects, and they said that you can ask the pharmacist now. They've got a grant. They're trying to get them out to as many families at risk as possible.
So you can try that route. Call your pharmacy and check what's available. And you don't have to have a prescription. And you can be the family member, not even the person that the narcotics are prescribed to. So.
What was the name again of the agency?
USARA, USARA, and they're, I forget what it stands for. Acronyms. So many acronyms.
Which, speaking of which, let's get to some more resources. I know we only have a couple minutes left. So we talked about the Suicide Prevention Lifeline, and then the Safe UC app, particularly a great resource for youth, but adults can use it as well. And you can download it for free on any phone, and it will connect you via chat to the same counselors as if you called the Suicide Prevention Lifeline. And then it's there on your phone as like a visible reminder of, oh, there's someone who can help me when I'm in a crisis. And so it's good to just have it downloaded in advance for kids who have any risk at all, right? Because they can use this not just at their risk of suicide, but to report if their friend at school is being bullied. They can use it to just chat with someone if they, had something else happen at school, or if they're having a crappy day, right? They're going to respond to these kids. So it's a good resource, even if the risk is low. And the way that the tip works is they put in, if they want it, rather than chatting, they can choose to submit a tip about somebody that they're worried about, or you could even use it to submit a tip. If you can't find a kid and you are trying to track them down because they were indicating they had suicide risk, you could go into the app put the kid's school and their name and submit the tip, and it'll go to their school administrators, and they'll help track the kid down. So it's a good resource for you if you're worried about someone and not able to find them. Obviously, 911 is a great resource too, but use all your resources depending on the situation. So I already talked about the Trevor Project Lifeline. Obviously, you guys know 211 and their website for families who are uninsured. And then My 3 is an app that has the safety plan in it. If you want an app version, then feel free to use that one. It's a free app. And hopefully you guys all know NAMI, Utah. It's the National Alliance on Mental Illness, and they have free classes and support groups for families who are experiencing mental illness or trying to support a loved one who has a mental illness. And they have some peer supports and great things there that are all free. And then the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention is particularly a good resource for families who have lost someone to suicide. They have grief support, things like that.
Andrea, we have 1.5 minutes.
That's fine. Okay. I'm just really close to the end. Thanks for the reminder. So System of Care it's a Division of Substance Abuse and Mental Health resource, and I am not an expert on it, but I will tell you a little bit about it. So if you have a kid who is engaged in multiple systems, like DCFS and JJS, and is just a really high need kid, then you could refer them to systemofcare.utah.gov/refer, and it's kind of like case management between these big systems, just this really enhanced intense case.
If you have questions about System of Care, you can see me after tonight.
Great. You've used it?
Well, they're next door to me.
Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, I should know more about them, but I'm actually new to the division. I worked at the health department before, so so I came over. But then another local resource is the Stabilization and Mobile Response. And so currently this is only available for youth in Davis and Southwest areas and regions. And then coming soon, hopefully this summer, Weaver and Bear River will come along with that. And what it is it's mobile crisis for youth, short-term case management for youth who have behavioral health needs. So they can, if you call them up, and you call them by accessing the local mental health authority, you call the local mental health authority and then press 2 or whatever the phone instructions tell you. And they'll do de-escalation and help over the phone, but often they can also send out a mobile crisis if needed, and then refer them to the ongoing case management, and that could also connect them to the family resource facilitation and wraparound services, which are available through the local mental health authorities. And so that's just a brief description of what's provided through there, but they just have a lot of peer support, a lot of access to other services and knowledge, because these systems are complex and there's a lot to navigate through. And then school-based mental health is another thing that we work with schools to provide, and the availability varies by district and by school. So I'm sorry, I can't tell you if it's in a particular school or how much access you have, but we definitely need more of it. And then Uni is another resource if you're in Salt Lake County, but really anyone can use the Worm line. So it's really for the sub-crisis state of just I need someone to talk to, and they have peer supports available from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. to offer that support. And for the individuals who are in,
Your meeting has